We have a gem of a guest today. My special guest today is none other than wide receiver number 88, Harvey Smith. We're going to talk about a little bit of business. We're going to talk about, his days at WVU with me, as a teammate. What a great guy. You're going to love Harvey Smith. He is a great, great man and very inspirational, and you're going to enjoy this interview. Oh, man, this is more than a pleasure. I was going down memory lane, Harv, and man, again, it's a blessing to have you on here, but I got some good stuff for you. I don't even think you remember some of this stuff, brother.
Uh-oh. Testing the memory.
Oh, no. This is all good stuff. First off, how you doing? How you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed. I am blessed, man. All is well.
Good. Good. You look great. You look great.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you something. You don't age.
Keep telling me that, man. I paid you enough money to say that, man. Say that. Repeat that periodically during this process. That'll make me feel good.
You do not age, and I thank God, man. I'm honored and pleasure to have you on. I want to go down memory lane real quick because I want the fans to understand the history with you being on this show. So not only were you a tremendous player, but you were a tremendous teammate. So before I even get into all the other stuff, I want to go back to this 1987 Sun Bowl.
Okay.
Because here's what's so ironic. We're playing this upcoming week. West Virginia is playing Oklahoma State.
Yep.
We played Oklahoma State in the 1987 Sun Bowl. And what a memorable game, because there were some legends that were playing on Oklahoma State. 3, to be exact: Mike Gundy, who's now their current coach.
Yep.
Thurman Thomas, and of course, the infamous and great Barry Sanders.
Yes. Huge names.
That team, our team, some people thought we underachieved to even become bowl eligible that year.
Yeah.
And I remember that season. What do you remember about that season, Harv?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways that's pretty accurate what you're saying. I think I believe we finished 6-6 that year.
Yeah.
We did lose to that great Oklahoma State team, two NFL Hall of Famers, arguably 2 of the top 5 running backs in the history of the game. Barry Sanders was a freshman that year. Yeah. And I just remember once we knew we were going to the bowl game and coming in, you know how we would do those team meetings and we get our initial scouting report, and they kept saying Thurman Thomas, and the whole country knew about Thurman. Thurman was the man. Thurman was the starter. He was the team captain for Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy, who's their head coach now, was a great quarterback. Everybody knew about them too, but what stood out to me was watching the film of that initial scouting report, and the opening kickoff return for the season was Barry Sanders going like 102 yards. I was like, who in the world is that?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I even remember when we went down to the Sun Bowl, and Barry was just the quietest, nicest guy, just a pure gentleman. And it just blew me away watching his demeanor. And you could just tell greatness was all over this person, and great things, as we know, were going to come about in his future.
Now, you want to laugh at something? All of that was a setup for this.
Don't be setting me up, Gene.
This is a beautiful setup. Okay. I remember doing the same thing. I sat with him. We actually had because he didn't drink, I didn't drink. So we sat there, had a Pepsi or whatever, watching everybody else have a good time, just chatting.
I was at that same table because we were all the non-drinkers.
Right. That's right. Yes. We just sitting there and what a great guy. Right. But you know what? All that was to lead up to you, and what a great person you are, my friend. And The same accolades in as far as being a high character person that you just talked about with Sir Barry Sanders is what I'm about to talk to you about. You and I spoke a few weeks ago about what it means to be a high character person and what it meant to even come to WVU and the way Coach Nealon recruited. From day one, as it was with a few of the guys who accepted me when I transferred into WVU, you were one of the first people that I connected with, and it's always been the same, man. And I really want to speak to this during this interview to get these young student athletes to understand how important it is to be a person of character. I said this to you then, I'm going to say it to you now. You can tell when somebody comes from a well-raised family. You can tell that because they carry themselves a little bit differently. And it's not about what everybody else is doing. It's about what you know to do that is correct. You always carried yourself that way. And I'm humbled to call you my mountaineer brother. It helps to separate those characteristics from other people who don't seem to see it that way.
You went out on me for a second. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
No problem. I was saying, what is it about those characteristics of knowing how to carry yourself and making really good decisions in the face of peer pressure, in the face of what somebody else is doing and you know not to do?
Yeah. And you said a lot of it already in the setup. I was raised in a way where, young people have this saying, keep it 100.
Right.
But yet a lot of people don't understand what keep it 100 means, because you're out there trying to live up to all these other images and all these other definitions of what's right and wrong. And I was raised, Gene, to just treat people fairly, be open and honest with people about your feelings. Even if you disagree with them, you can always agree to disagree, but do it with respect. And I've always treated people in that fashion, whether it was a superstar on our team or it was the last person. And in fact, I've always made it part of my way of doing business, because I went from a walk-on to becoming team captain in that Sun Bowl. I was the other captain across from Thurman. But I always made it a point to, if it was the last player on our roster, all throughout that year, I was paying attention to him. What do you need? How can I make you a better person, not player? Person, not player. And so often you see the mistake, even nowadays, because our athletes are so glamorized and they're so put on pedestals and those things like that. And good for them. This is not to take anything away from that. Good for you. If God has given you that talent, make the most of it. But you got to be a good steward of it. And what that means is be a good person. Don't use your gift to dumb down somebody else or to make somebody who have a lesser talent hurt their feelings, bruise their feelings, make them feel like a lesser person. And in fact, you should use that. And this has always been my model. Use my gift to uplift those people. If they're down, or if they're lacking in self-esteem and confidence, use the talents that God gave you to make them feel good about themselves.
Right. See, you about to get me over here and all teared up right now, brother. Because those are the things that I felt when I came into that locker room at WVU, man, because we had a lot of good players, but I felt like Coach Nealon did such a good job of recruiting good people. And that's the nucleus of having a good team. I always say you win with character.
That's right.
And I want to go back to something that you alluded to. Your work ethic. And I had no idea of this, which was interesting. I didn't know that you walked on at WVU. What was it? I know the tenacity and everything that got you there, but what was your frame of mind and the work ethic and the things that you had to do to get to the point where you wound up being a starter, you wound up being a captain? Could you take me through that process if you don't mind?
Yeah, really that starts with, you said something as you introduced me with, you could just tell people who were raised a certain way. My work ethic comes from my father. You know, I saw that man, no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the challenge, no matter what the adversity, just get up and go to work every day. If the sun is up, you're not sleeping, you're up working on making yourself a better person. So that was instilled in me every day. And so when I went to West Virginia, it was a risk. You know how in the stock market, the higher the risk, the higher the return. I wanted the highest return, so I had to go Division 1 when I was not recruited. I was barely recruited at the Division 2 level. And so the thing that my father said when he dropped me off is he dropped me off basically with a 4-year plan. And he said, don't call me with your issues, you figure it out. Don't call me unless you're in the hospital, basically. Broken bones and all that stuff is stuff for you to figure out. You get up and you go to work every day, and you just remember to outwork that person that's ahead of you. If you outwork them and they still win the job, take your hat off to them. But
Wow.
if you outwork them and you're the better person, good things are going to come to you. And I just use that philosophy. You know, we came there, and I like to call it the golden age, the golden era of the walk-ons at West Virginia. So I'm gonna drop some names off at you that came through there at that time. Rich Rod was walk-on with me, year ahead of me. John Hollifield, my first roommate, my brother, one of my best friends until today. Love him. We went on this journey together. We were in a separate locker room with Chris Pecan. Weren't even in the main locker room with the other players. So me and Chris Pecan, Mountaineer great until today, Chris Pecan. And you did a program with him just a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, there's no greater Mountaineer, you know, person, fan, supporter than Chris Pecan. And then John Hollifield, we know his story. He went on and became a great running back in the same backfield with you guys. Went on to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. Has a great career now. And then the other name and the last name in that era was Grannis Bell. Another guy. Went on to the NFL with the Jets and the Redskins, I believe.
Yep.
And so we all walk-ons together, and all of us earned scholarships together. Some of us became team captains together. You know, and that didn't come by accident, Gene. It didn't come by Coach Nillen handing it to us. But
Right.
if you don't mind for a few more seconds, I want to say, and hopefully Coach Nillen will watch this program, because as a young person, you know, sometimes you don't really appreciate and take for granted the opportunities that you're given. And I was guilty of that. You know what I mean? I liked Coach Nillen for sure, loved Coach Nillen. But it didn't really dawn on me until years later. And especially now looking, I have a son that's a walk-on up at Penn State, and I see other guys that go out there as walk-ons. It's brutal to make it as a walk-on nowadays. It's brutal. And it made me reflect back that Coach Nillen didn't have to give me the opportunity that he did. But he did because of the type of human being he is. And so I say, Coach Nillen, thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and your family. Until today, you gave me one of the greatest gifts of my life, which you just gave me an opportunity to show and display my skills and my talent. So thank you, sir, for that.
Let me tell you something, and it's funny. I send these episodes to Coach Neilan every week. And because,
Wonderful.
oh, no doubt about it. I just want him to understand, like you just said, and I echo everything that you just said, because when you're young, you don't see that. I had a chance to speak to him a few months back, and I thanked him for giving me the opportunity to transfer into WVU and as always, as humble and as gracious as he can be, his response to me was, "You did more for me than I did for you."
Yeah. Yeah, that's Coach Nillen.
That's
Yeah,
just,
that's
you
Coach
know,
Nillen.
but I'm gonna share this with you, man. Your success on and off the football field was measured by your work ethic, you know, as you just pointed out. And today, I think a lot of our young people, they miss that. I don't care if you're an athlete or not. They just miss that intangible, the work, like the effort that you have to put in. Effort is personal. It's between you and you.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody could tell you how hard to work. And I used to watch you and the other receivers worked tirelessly. You know what's funny? The jug machine,
Yeah.
right?
That's when it
I
first
don't know.
came out.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but you helped me just by watching you to become a better pass catcher out of the backfield.
Mm.
Because I wanted to be a hand catcher, not a
Yeah.
body catcher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would watch you guys and you got plucking that thing. Man, well,
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to do that. So every now and again, I'll sneak out there and try to get my hands right. But that came from watching you and the rest of the wide receivers, man. The work ethic was crazy.
Yeah.
From that standpoint, what did football, and I would imagine, well, I'll just ask the question, what did football, how does that translate from the football field into the successful businesses that you are a part of? How does those two worlds meet?
Yeah, I talk to my wife about this quite often also. And I have 5 sons. And so when they were younger, I would say to her, I'm concerned at the way things are happening in society now because, the things that we had to deal with as athletes back in that day were a lot tougher. A lot tougher. And I'm not saying that to bash the generation that's now. I'm just speaking facts. We
Right.
didn't have all the regulations on how many practices you can have, this, that, and the other. And it was just a tougher environment. But those things, they molded me and they shaped me into the man that I am today. That work ethic, that nothing is going to be given to you, and that, oh, by the way, failure is inevitable, but it's what you do with failure that becomes the defining moment. So if I failed 5,000 times at West Virginia, and I assure you that I did, getting hit by Stacy Smith and Lawrence Holly and Travis Curtis and Whitey Daniels and Mike Scott, that was not I wasn't winning all them battles. But what life teaches you is how to respond in the right way. You get up the next day, and if Larry Holly beat me on Tuesday's practice, you get up and you go study and you go perfect your craft. You get better at what you're doing. You accept the challenge. If you fall behind somebody on the depth chart that beats you out because they're outperforming you, you get better. You don't transfer and run away from it. You embrace that challenge. There's something about that that makes you a better human being, a thicker skinned human being. And just one little quick story that happened. History has a way of repeating itself. So not only does that happen, but I say it teaches you and it shapes and molds you into who you are. So now fast forward, I have a son that's a junior at Penn Hills High School here in the Pittsburgh area. He gets demoted. He goes from first team running back in camp to fourth team running back. He wants to transfer. He wants to do all these things. And I said, no, you chose the wrong dad for that formula. The dad that you have is you're going to accept that challenge. And if they give you one carry in the game, that's going to be the best carry of your life, because then next game, they're going to give you 4 carries. And then the next game, they're going to give you 8 carries. It's your job to put yourself in a position that they never take you off the field. Then you fast forward that at the end of the year, he was number 1 and he's getting 30 carries a game. And they ended up winning a state championship the year after that.
But look at that lesson, though. See, that's what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And I know this is a different culture because now you have the transfer portal and all of that nonsense going on.
Right, right.
But Harvey, that's what I'm talking about. That's something that will help your son through every phase of his life because he's rooted in that. He's raised in that. That's a staple in your household, right?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. And see, this is why when we have a chance to get on this particular program, and I love doing my show this way because I want people to take something from it. It's sports, but sports is a small microcosm of life, as we both know.
Yes. Yes.
I want to fast forward to the business success. Your business model and how you work, because you got that from playing sports, you got that from your dad and your mom and your upbringing, but you took that and you took that formula and flipped it into successful businesses. Share with us a little bit of how did you do that?
Yeah, same principles. You know, it's really the same type of formula because business is funny, and I treat my business. And if we were having this conversation in front of my staff right now, they'd be laughing because they'd be like, "Here we go with the football analogies," because I relate everything to life as it was for me as an athlete to life
Sure.
as it is for me as a business owner. And
Right.
so the best way for me to draw analogies and paint a picture for my workers is to use the experiences that I've had in my life as an athlete. How did you overcome? You know, one of my businesses is a home care business. It's a tough business taking care of our elderly. There's a lot of government regulations, there's a lot of challenges. The margins are small, but I always say to them, this is the business that we're in. This is the business that we chose. So we can either embrace that or we can dumb down and deny that and be out of business. I said, I'm not going to allow that. We're going to embrace this challenge and we're going to be the best healthcare agency. In fact, I'm going to challenge us to be the best we're a small business, but we took on challenges to become gold standard, joint commission and things like that, that big companies operate, that space they operate in. I'm a
Right.
small company that operate in that same space because I applied the lessons that I learned at West Virginia University.
Harv, man. And that's what I'm talking about. This is what I think this is all about. Inspire positive change in the life of others is the model that I try to live by. It's not about so much what I have. God has blessed me with a lot. My job is, like you said, be a good steward of that and share it. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't be a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
If you had to give advice to student athlete and or someone that when they graduate, they're trying to get in the business, what would that advice be, Harv?
Well, you know, I want to back up along those lines and answer that question. There takes special people in every one of our journeys to make things possible for you. And so,
Right.
in being a good steward comes in a lot of different ways. So, Coach Nillen for me was one of those. He gave me the opportunity on the field. But then there's others like Gary Mullins, Blue. That's my mentor. And you know, it's the funny thing, Gene, you said to me, you didn't even know I was a walk-on because we were more brothers than anything. We didn't sit and talk about details of,
Right.
and the thing that you missed in saying that subconsciously, you didn't treat me, you didn't care. It was irrelevant. Nowadays, sometimes these programs, they treat walk-ons like they're almost unhuman. You guys
Right.
never treated me like that. And in fact, Blue, who took me under his wing, became my mentor, he gave me an opportunity to be successful because, quite frankly, being down there as a walk-on, not being recruited, seeing the high recruited guys coming in and I got to compete with them. Blue was the dude that took me under his wings and said, "Hey, Smitty, man, you can do this. You got this. Let me show you how. Here's what I do." And I was there because I didn't know, because in high school I was a quarterback. So the first time I played wide receivers when I stepped foot on the field at West Virginia. So to have a guy like Blue, who was a good steward of not only the talent that God gave him, but willing to share his skill set and all that knowledge he had up in his head with little old me, who was a nobody, meant everything to me. And it took me 20 something years to say, you know what, let me pick up the phone and call Blue and let that man know that he had a part in making me become the man that I am today.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. And that's a blessing because sometimes we don't get it. And that's what I'm afraid for right now, currently. I'm hoping and praying that our young people really start to understand that and they start to, apply that because we have so much talent, but I don't think they understand, this road that's paved prior, even for me going to WVU, transferring in there from Pittsburgh, the road that was already paved with John Holofield and those guys. Listen, it was a blessing to come and just have to sit out that year and watch. So my time playing with you and with others, it is a brotherhood. That's why all these years later, I can pick up the phone and call you and have these deep conversations and feel warm inside about it, because I know the love and admiration I have for you as a person and as a teammate, it's beyond compare, man. And I thank you so much for even coming on, my show, because it means more to me than you even know. Because I know somebody's going to be blessed by this very interview.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about. Do me a favor in closing. I need you to do me a favor, Harv. If you can give 2 or 3 different, well, I'm going to say 2 to 3 anecdotes or advice to someone coming in or trying to pick a college, what would it be?
Yeah. The first thing that I would say is have the long view. Have a view of the big picture. Understand that your life, this next 4 years, is only going to be a small part of the bigger you. So take the time to really understand where you're going and who you're going to be spending your time with, so that, and I have nothing against the transfer portal, but you want to eliminate that process if you can, because the next 4 years, you are going to be building friendships, relationships with people that will last a lifetime. Don't underestimate that. You don't know all the circles of life. We're sitting here talking as brothers right now, Gene, because we played together for 4 years. You don't think I got to know you in the trenches for 4 years? So how do you get to know and how you get to have relationships with people if you're transferring out every year? So do your due diligence so that you don't come to that situation. Understand the coach that you're going to play for. Understand the university that you're going to play for. Go to understand if you're going to have a coach kneeling who really cares about you more when you have family adversity, because that's when the character comes out. Not when things are going good, but true character comes out when things are adverse. You got a death in the family. You got a situation at home. Who are those people and how do they treat you at that moment? And that's why you got to dig deeper as a young man going into a university. It matters, And then the last thing I would tell them is stay in for the fight. Man, yeah, sometimes it's easier to transfer. And I'm not saying that transferring is wrong. If you're in a situation, there's some guys, when you look at the hooker kid that went to Tennessee, God bless you. God bless you. You went to a better situation for you that you could become a Heisman candidate. That worked for you. All I'm saying is don't be so, let me choose my words carefully. Don't try to avoid competition so much that if somebody is getting a few more carries or a few more catches than you, that you just get emotional and you run for the hills, and grass ain't always greener on the other side, because the part of that they don't talk about is only probably 20% of these guys that transfer go into better situations.
Very true. Very true.
So stay for the fight. It'll make the man, it'll shape the man, it'll mold the man that you can become 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the road. And if you're always running from battle, if you're always running from competition, how do you build a business? My competition ain't going nowhere, Gene. They're right there.
I know that's right. Harv, man, words of a great man. And I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Brother, listen, thank you so much for being on Relatively Sports. I appreciate you, man. And I'm humbled by it.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you, brother.
So listen, I'm going to be back in touch with you real soon. Real soon. Thank you, brother.
All right. Be blessed.
You too. Take care.
Take care.
What I tell you, West Virginia fans, Harvey Smith is truly a gem. This man has done so much in his life, and he still continues to do that. And as you see, he paid homage, as we all do, to Coach Nealon, because without Don Nealon given opportunities, a lot of us wouldn't be where we are today. You learn, like I said, sports is a small microcosm of life, and speaking that into existence with Harvey Smith means a lot. I'm so glad he came on and shared his experiences with you on and off the field. And I look forward to next week. I got another surprise guest, another Mountaineer, but you have to tune in next week to see who that is. You take care, and I'll see you next week. Let's go, Mountaineers.